From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.
Good day, I am Win Peñano bringing you today's edition of Dateline Malacañang. Here are top Malacañang stories. President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. has reaffirmed the Philippines' commitment to the One China policy, saying the country will not interfere in issues concerning Taiwan. In an interview with Japanese media, President Marcos said the Philippines continues to recognize the People's Republic of China as the sole sovereign government of China and maintains its long-standing diplomatic stance. He stressed, however, the importance of a peaceful resolution to tensions in the Taiwan Strait, noting that any conflict in the area would directly affect the Philippines due to its proximity, especially northern Luzon. The president also highlighted the presence of around 200,000 Filipinos in Taiwan, saying their safety makes regional stability a key national concern. He added that the Philippines remains engaged with China through diplomatic channels and continues to support dialogue and cooperation to maintain peace and stability in the Indo-Pacific region.
Dateline Malacañang.
In our news, President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. said the Philippines is pursuing long-term measures to strengthen energy resilience amid global supply uncertainties and tensions in the Middle East. In an interview with Japanese media, he emphasized the need to institutionalize energy security policies and deepen regional cooperation to ensure a stable fuel and electricity supply across Asia. He said recent global disruptions have highlighted the vulnerability of supply chains, prompting ASEAN countries and partners like Japan to explore alternative energy sources, improve logistics, and strengthen shared reserves. President Marcos also cited ongoing discussions within ASEAN on a possible regional power grid and coordinated oil stockpiling system, alongside closer cooperation with Japan on fuel procurement and energy security. He added that while the Philippines has temporarily relied on coal due to supply constraints, the long-term direction remains a transition toward renewable energy and greater sustainability.
Dateline Malacañang.
President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. said regional security issues in the Indo-Pacific are expected to be a major focus on his upcoming talks with Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi during his visit to Tokyo later this month. In an interview with Japanese media, President Marcos said both the Philippines and Japan face similar challenges involving coercive activities and gray zone tactics in disputed waters, particularly in the South China Sea and East China Sea. He noted that China's continued activities in the West Philippine Sea and its claims over Japan's Senkaku Islands highlight the evolving security environment in the region, making closer cooperation among partners increasingly important. The president also welcomed Japan's more active defense posture and its participation in this year's Balikatan exercises with Philippine and U.S. forces, saying it strengthens interoperability and readiness among allies. President Marcos said discussions with Japan will likely cover information sharing, technology exchange, military training, and broader regional security cooperation involving ASEAN and other partners. He is scheduled to begin a 4-day state visit to Japan on May 26 to mark the 70th anniversary of diplomatic relations between the Philippines and Japan.
Dateline Malacañang.
President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. has welcomed the recent meeting between U.S. President Donald Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping, saying continued dialogue between the world's two largest economies is vital to global peace and stability. Speaking to Japanese reporters, President Marcos said the engagement is significant not only for the United States and China, but for the broader international community amid ongoing geopolitical and economic tensions. He said that even without full details of the talks, the fact that both sides are communicating directly is already a positive development that helps reduce the risk of escalation. President Marcos emphasized that dialogue is essential in managing disputes, whether in trade or security, and stressed that peace should also be understood in terms of economic stability and cooperation. While acknowledging competition between nations, he said cooperation remains necessary, expressing hope that continued U.S.-China engagement will ease tensions and benefit the global economy.
Dateline Malacañang.
President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. has welcomed Japan's expanded defense export policy, saying it will strengthen security cooperation and support military modernization efforts between Manila and Tokyo. Speaking to Japanese media in Malacañang, President Marcos said the Philippines already works with Japan under the official security assistance framework, which includes defense-related equipment and support systems. He said Japan's decision to allow broader defense exports marks a significant policy shift that opens opportunities for deeper cooperation, including radar systems, vessels, aircraft training, and technology sharing. The president noted that these initiatives are already contributing to the modernization of the armed forces of the Philippines and reflect a growing security partnership between the two countries. He also cited the 2024 Reciprocal Access Agreement, which allows expanded military exercises, joint operations, and easier troop deployments, describing it as a major step in strengthening bilateral defense ties. President Marcos is set to visit Japan next week, where further discussions on security cooperation with Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi are expected.
Dateline Malacañang.
President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. expressed confidence that the Philippine economy will remain resilient and continue growing despite global headwinds, citing sustained investor confidence and government measures to cushion external shocks. Speaking to Japanese media in Malacañang, President Marcos said the government is recalibrating its strategy to stabilize fuel supply amid ongoing uncertainty linked to tensions in the Middle East. He said the Philippines is working with ASEAN partners and other countries to strengthen energy security through coordinated supply arrangements and possible joint stockpiling initiatives. The president also warned of the risk of economic stagnation, where inflation remains high while growth slows, and said government policy is focused on preventing this scenario. He acknowledged continued inflation pressures in food and fuel, but said interventions such as rice price measures, targeted subsidies, and transport sector support are helping stabilize conditions. President Marcos added that government spending is being accelerated for infrastructure and social programs, alongside fiscal adjustments to fund assistance without slowing economic activity. Despite global challenges, he said investor confidence remains strong, supported by reforms, improved incentives, and continued support for micro, small, and medium enterprises.
Dateline Malacañang.
President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. has administered the oath of office to newly appointed Department of Budget and Management or DBM Acting Secretary Kim Robert De Leon in Malacañang Palace in Manila on Tuesday. The ceremony took place a day after De Leon's appointment was officially announced. De Leon replaces former DBM Acting Secretary Rolando Toledo, who will now join the Board of Trustees of the Government Service Insurance System or GSIS, the state-run insurance institution for government employees and retirees. At 32 years old, De Leon is currently the youngest member of the cabinet. Prior to his appointment, he served as DBM Undersecretary overseeing the organization and systems improvement and information and communications or technology groups. He also previously held a senior post at the Department of Transportation or DOTR, where he handled administration and finance. De Leon is a graduate of the University of the Philippines National College of Public Administration and Governance, where he finished magna cum laude and graduated as valedictorian. He also topped the 2016 Environmental Planning Licensure examination. The new budget secretary earned master's degrees in urban and regional planning and public safety administration, both with academic honors. He also completed a certificate in business process management at the Queensland University of Technology in Australia through a scholarship program. President Marcos said De Leon's appointment is expected to support ongoing efforts to strengthen government budgeting and administrative reforms.
Dateline Malacañang.
President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. has met with United States Undersecretary of State for Economic Growth, Energy, and Environment Jacob Hellberg in Malacañang on Tuesday to discuss expanded economic cooperation between the Philippines and the United States. According to the Presidential Communications Office or PCO, the discussions focused on key initiatives including the Luzon Economic Corridor, investment and technology partnerships, supply chain cooperation, and trade priorities between the two countries. The Luzon Economic Corridor is a joint initiative of the Philippines, the United States, and Japan aimed at boosting infrastructure connectivity, semiconductor development, logistics modernization, clean energy investments, and digital transformation in Luzon. The government said the project is expected to generate up to 1 million jobs for Filipinos and support broader economic growth targets. Both sides also discussed the Pax Silica initiative and other efforts to strengthen cooperation in strategic industries and emerging technologies. Malacañang said the meeting reaffirmed both countries' commitment to deepening economic and trade relations as cooperation expands beyond security into innovation and shared prosperity. This year marks the 80th anniversary of diplomatic relations between the Philippines and the United States, as well as the 75th anniversary of the Mutual Defense Treaty. The United States remains one of the Philippines' top trading partners and a key investor in the country's economy.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Philippine National Police or PNP has dismissed claims that the Senate was under attack during the confusion that broke out on the night of May 13 when gunfire sparked panic amid fears surrounding the possible arrest of Senator Ronald Bato de la Rosa. However, officials say investigations are still ongoing into allegations that the incident may have been staged to allow the senator to leave the premises. In a press briefing in Malacañang on Tuesday, Department of the Interior and Local Government or DLG Secretary John Vic Remulla says there is no final conclusion yet on that angle, but he stressed one key finding from the probe.
For the record, all evidence points that there was no attack on the Senate.
comes after Senate President Alan Peter Cayetano earlier claimed that the Senate was under attack during the incident, a position he reiterated in a press briefing. But the Philippine National Police says evidence gathered does not support that claim. PNP Chief General Jose Melencio Nartates Jr. reported that ballistic analysis showed all bullets fired were outgoing shots, suggesting they came from inside the Senate and were directed outward. Investigators also reviewed CCTV footage showing Senate Sergeant-at-Arms Mau Aplasca firing his weapon toward what appeared to be unseen armed individuals. Authorities recovered 44 shell casings traced to 4 different firearms, with investigators saying Aplasca and 2 other members of the Office of the Sergeant-at-Arms discharged their weapons. Secretary Remulla also pointed to CCTV footage from inside the Senate security room, saying it contradicted claims of an organized assault. Remulla added that individuals seen on video were not in tactical gear and did not appear to be conducting an organized assault. He also noted that National Bureau of Investigation agents involved were clearly identifiable and not in tactical equipment typically used for operations.
This CCTV footage was from the Senate CCTV room, not the GSIS. So, the Senate security had full view of the people who were on that floor. Take note that none of the elements are in tactical gear. All of them were just in conference. None of them were in formation to attack the Senate. They were just checking out every floor that was in danger.
He further said that during the incident, a Senate Sergeant-at-Arms approached an NBI agent near a bridge connecting the Senate complex to the GSIS building amid rising tension and warning shots. NBI Director Melvin Matibag earlier confirmed that agents were deployed to the area upon request of the GSIS management. One agent reportedly fired back cover shots while disengaging after warning shots were fired. That same agent later reported that the incident to fellow operatives at the GSIS building. Remulla said NBI personnel were instructed not to engage further, suggesting their actions did not indicate an offensive operation. Meanwhile, the Philippine National Police has formally submitted its investigation report to Department of Justice Secretary Frederick Vida. Vida said the report will still undergo validation and verification, but authorities already have an initial understanding of what transpired. He added that investigators are looking into the full timeline of events, not only the night of May 13, but also preceding developments starting May 11, including Senator De La Rosa's movements and eventual departure with Senator Robin Padilla.
We've identified, but I don't want to preclude yung panel natin, no? Pero medyo malawak, no? Ang tinitingnan nga ng panel natin, based on my order, is not only for the May 13 and May 14. Ang pinatitingnan natin, look at the totality of circumstances, which started May 11. So lahat ng timelines na yan, from May 11 to May 14, titingnan ng ating panel.
That authorities are not yet naming liable individuals or specific charges as the investigation continues. For now, officials say the focus remains on verifying evidence and establishing the full sequence of events surrounding the incident.
Dateline Malacañang.
In our news, National Bureau of Investigation or NBI Director Melvin Matibag has defended the agency's driver volunteer who was arrested in connection with last week's shooting incident at the Senate, saying the individual was not issued any firearm despite testing positive for gunpowder residue. Matibag said video footage shows the NBI driver volunteer, identified as Mel Oragon, was at the 5th floor of the GSIS office building when the shooting incident occurred at the adjacent Senate building. He explained that Oragon later returned to the area during the clearing operation to retrieve a bag left behind by a companion. However, Matibag said the man was arrested before he could reach the bag and was brought to the Senate premises where he was made to lie face down during ongoing security operations. The NBI director said this may explain why Oragon tested positive for gunpowder residue, noting that the area was heavily exposed to gunfire from Senate security personnel during the incident. Matibag maintained that the arrest context and scene conditions must be properly considered in the investigation. The Senate shooting incident occurred on the same night Senator Ronald De La Rosa disappeared from the chamber premises after previously being under Senate custody. De La Rosa, who is wanted by the International Criminal Court as a co-perpetrator in the drug war case against former President Rodrigo Duterte, has filed several motions before the Supreme Court to block enforcement of the arrest warrant. Matibag said the NBI is awaiting the Supreme Court's ruling on the matter, but stressed that the warrant remains valid unless otherwise ordered by the court. Meanwhile, the Philippine National Police confirmed that several personnel from the Senate's Office of the Sergeant-at-Arms appeared before the Criminal Investigation and Detection Group at Camp Crame as part of the ongoing investigation into the shooting incident. Authorities have yet to release further details as the probe continues.
Dateline Malacañang.
The National Bureau of Investigation, or NBI, says it has leads on the whereabouts of Senator Ronald Bato de la Rosa, who is facing an International Criminal Court warrant of arrest. NBI Director Melvin Matibag said on Tuesday that Senator Robin Hood Padilla may have information on De La Rosa's location, noting he was the senator's last known companion, though no further details were disclosed. Matibag urged De La Rosa to surrender, citing his background as former Philippine National Police Chief and pointing to previous cases of lawmakers who voluntarily submitted to authorities when warrants were issued. De La Rosa reportedly left the Senate premises on May 14 with Padilla shortly after a gunfire incident inside the chamber. The NBI also said its investigation into the Senate shooting is nearing completion and will be submitted to the Department of Justice, while noting that accountability may be assessed under the principle of command responsibility.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Office of the Solicitor General, or OSG, has asked the Supreme Court to dismiss a petition seeking to compel President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. to publicly release his medical report and undergo a hair follicle drug test. In a 23-page comment submitted to the High Court dated May 15, the OSG described the petition as a fishing expedition and said it should be resolutely denied. The Solicitor General argued that the case violates the doctrine of presidential immunity, which protects a sitting president from suit during their tenure to ensure the uninterrupted performance of official duties. It said the petition is inherently flawed because the relief being sought is directed specifically against the president, who is constitutionally immune from legal action while in office. The OSG also cited Republic Act 10173 or the Data Privacy Act of 2012, saying medical information is classified as sensitive personal data and may only be disclosed under limited legal circumstances. It further argued that the petitioners have no legal standing, saying a taxpayer's suit must involve the illegal use or disbursement of public funds, which is not present in this case. The petition was filed by former House Speaker Pantaleon Alvarez along with Virgilio Garcia, Juan Rania, and Raimundo Junio. The Office of the Solicitor General is asking the Supreme Court to dismiss the petition outright.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Philippine National Police or PNP under the PNP Chief General Jose Melencio Nartates Jr. has called on all commanders and personnel to stay focused on their duty on ensuring public safety amid political noise and misinformation circulating online. He said criticisms and online issues should be used as motivation to improve police services rather than distractions from law enforcement work. Nartates emphasized that the PNP remains committed to reducing crime, maintaining peace and order, and continuing internal reforms in coordination with the Department of the Interior and Local Government or DILG. He also cited ongoing initiatives such as internal cleansing efforts and the Safer Cities program, which he said have contributed to lower crime incidents nationwide. The PNP chief assured that the organization will remain focused on public safety and will not be distracted by unverified political reports amid a speculation about possible changes in government leadership.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Philippine National Police or PNP has placed all units on alert following flooding in parts of Luzon and Mindanao caused by days of heavy rainfall. Police regional and local units were ordered to activate disaster response teams and assist in evacuation and rescue efforts. PNP Chief General Jose Melencio Nartates Jr. said personnel are already deployed on the ground and coordinating with local governments to ensure public safety and orderly response operations. Flooding was reported in parts of Quezon City due to thunderstorms, while in Davao City, rising waters in low-lying areas prompted evacuations in Barangay Matina Pangi. Authorities continue to monitor high-risk areas and are urging the public to follow official advisories and comply with evacuation orders when necessary.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Philippine National Police Anti-Cybercrime Group or PNP-ACG says it has arrested 52 individuals for various cyber-related violations during the first 15 days of May. In a statement Tuesday, PNP-ACG Chief Major General Wilson Asueta said 23 suspects were arrested through entrapment operations while 28 were listed as wanted persons. One individual was arrested during a rescue operation. Asueta also reported that 10 individuals were convicted in cybercrime cases during the same period. He added that the unit implemented 72 warrants to disclose computer data and referred 89 cases for filing, including 67 regular complaints and 22 inquest proceedings. The Anti-Cybercrime Group also conducted 587 cyber patrol operations and completed 18 digital forensic examinations. Authorities likewise rescued 10 victims of various cybercrimes. The PNP-ACG said it remains committed to strengthening its operations against online criminal activity and ensuring a safer cyberspace for the public.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency or PDEA said its public reporting platform Isumbong Mo sa PDEA has achieved an 86% operational success rate based on validated reports from citizens. From July 1, 2022 to April 30, 2026, the agency received 3,681 drug-related information reports, of which 780 were validated through intelligence assessment and verification procedures. Of the validated reports, 672 led to successful anti-drug operations, reflecting what PDEA described as improved intelligence processing, interagency coordination, and rapid response capabilities. The agency emphasized that not all submitted reports result in operations, as each undergoes validation to ensure accuracy and avoid misuse of resources. It also encouraged the public to continue submitting verified and reliable information to strengthen anti-drug enforcement efforts.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Department of Agriculture or DA is planning to implement a suggested retail price or SRP of 53 pesos per kilogram for locally produced rice to help guide fair market pricing for both consumers and farmers. Agriculture Secretary Francisco Chu Laurel Jr. said the proposed SRP will be issued after consultations with stakeholders, including rice millers and industry groups, and has been generally accepted as a reasonable reference price. He clarified that the SRP will not function as a price ceiling, but rather as a benchmark to help consumers assess fair market value while allowing retailers flexibility depending on supply and competition. The DA also said that a stricter enforcement of the 50 pesos per kilogram price cap on imported rice will begin next week after a brief adjustment period. The policy follows earlier approval by President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. and is intended to stabilize rice prices amid current market fluctuations.
Dateline Malacañang.
About 23,994 aspiring school principals took part in the 2025 National Assessment for School Heads or NASH Batch 2, the Department of Education or DepEd said. Education Secretary Sani Angaro said the nationwide assessment aligns with the directive of President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. to strengthen leadership in the basic education system. The NASH aims to evaluate and enhance the leadership capacity of school heads based on the Philippine Professional Standards for School Heads, identify competency gaps, and expand the pool of qualified candidates for principal positions. The assessment was conducted across 65 testing sites nationwide on May 17, with central office monitors and regional personnel deployed to ensure proper implementation. DepEd also conducted a mock assessment earlier in May to prepare participants and test system readiness.
Dateline Malacañang.
All 9 pumping stations in Valenzuela City are expected to be fully operational next month, according to the Department of Public Works and Highways or DPWH, in a move aimed at improving flood control ahead of the rainy season. DPWH Secretary Vince Dizon said during an inspection of the Wawang Pulo pumping station and floodgate that 2 additional pumps will further increase the system's discharge capacity by 5,000 liters per second. Once completed, the system's total capacity will rise to around 20,000 liters per second, improving the flow of floodwater from smaller pumping stations in Metro Manila toward the Maykawayan River in Bulacan. The project was completed ahead of schedule, with full completion now targeted by the end of the month instead of the original August deadline, in line with directives from President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Department of Social Welfare and Development, or DSWD, has condemned the physical abuse of a 3-year-old child in Barangay Western Bicutan, Taguig City, after a video of the incident circulated online. DSWD spokesperson Assistant Secretary Irene Dumlao described the incident as deeply disturbing and unacceptable, stressing that the agency will not tolerate any form of violence against children. The video showed a young boy being kicked and punched by the alleged partner of his mother. The DSWD confirmed that the child has since been rescued and is now under the custody of the city's Social Welfare and Development Office, while authorities have placed the suspect under inquest proceedings. The agency also said psychosocial support and intervention are being provided to the child and his mother, and reminded the public to immediately report any similar cases of abuse to authorities to ensure the protection of vulnerable children.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Department of Social Welfare and Development, or DSWD, said it has released over 7.3 billion pesos in cash assistance to more than 1.4 million public utility vehicle drivers nationwide under its Transport Aid Program. DSWD spokesperson Assistant Secretary Irene Dumlao said payouts are continuing for registered and validated drivers, including those outside Metro Manila, as part of the government support for transport workers affected by rising fuel costs. She added that special payout schedules are being coordinated with transport network companies to ensure orderly distribution for TNVS, motorcycle taxi, and delivery riders. As of Tuesday, thousands of riders have already received assistance, with ongoing payouts scheduled in designated sites across Metro Manila and other areas. The program forms part of the government's broader support framework for vulnerable sectors under the DSWD's Crisis Assistance Initiatives.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board, or LTFRB, has announced that the Service Contracting Program, or SCP, for land-based public utility vehicles will end at 11:59 p.m. on May 22. LTFRB Chair Vigor Mendoza II said operators and drivers will instead transition to a 10 peso per liter fuel discount program following a successful pilot run in Metro Manila. A total of 141,724 jeepney and UV Express units have been enrolled in the fuel subsidy scheme, which allows qualified drivers to purchase discounted diesel at participating gas stations nationwide. Under the new system, only PUVs with valid franchises will be eligible for a weekly fuel allocation of up to 150 liters, with discounts automatically applied through a database-linked mobile system. The LTFRB has also directed regional offices to inform drivers about the 4,299 participating gas stations and ensure a smooth transition as the SCP is phased out, including the removal of program-related QR codes, signage, and passenger discount features.
Dateline Malacañang.
A total of 938 fuel stations nationwide are now implementing the 10 peso per liter fuel subsidy program or FSP for eligible public utility jeepney and UV Express drivers, the Department of Energy or DOE said. Energy Secretary Sharon Garin said the initiative is meant to cushion the impact of rising fuel prices and ensure drivers have easier access to assistance in line with President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.'s directive. The program under the Uplift framework provides qualified drivers of up to 1,500 pesos per vehicle per week for 3 months to help offset fuel costs amid global oil price pressures linked to the ongoing Middle East crisis. As of May 18, most participating stations are in Luzon with 616, followed by 172 in the Visayas and 150 in Mindanao. The DOE said the program will continue expanding its network while ensuring strict compliance from fuel stations to guarantee proper delivery of subsidies to beneficiaries.
Dateline Malacañang.
And finally, the Department of Transportation or DOTR has signed an agreement with the Land Bank of the Philippines to help settle a 3.6 billion peso obligation to Light Rail Manila Corporation or LRMC, the private operator of LRT-1. DOTR Acting Secretary Giovanni Lopez said the credit line will enable partial payments to the concessionaire in line with President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.'s directive to settle government obligations to private partners. He said the move is expected to support service improvements in LRT-1, including upgrades, digitalization, and better reliability for commuters. The agreement signed on May 14 is also seen as part of efforts to strengthen public-private partnerships in the transport sector and ensure continued quality service for daily passengers.
Dateline Malacañang.
And that concludes today's edition of Dateline Malacañang. For Radyo Pilipinas World Service, I am Win Peñano. Good day.
From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.